Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of UZPolitical Lens. Today I will be speaking with Ellison, who is running for a U.S. Senate position in Florida. How are you today, Alan?
I'm doing fine, and yourself?
Doing good, doing good. Awesome. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. For those of us who do not know you, can you start by introducing yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Ellison. I'm running for the United States Senate. I've been running in this particular race for a year and 6 months now. I'm the longest running candidate in this race. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a small business owner. I've been actually doing hair for about 31 years now. And, I couldn't think of a better career path to go into than the one that I'm headed into right now, and that's U.S. Senate, because my gift is helping people. This is what I do each and every day of my life. And I believe that I was put here on this earth to help people. So running for office is a way for me to maximize my gift of helping others.
Okay, awesome. So you said you're a helper, but what other things make you the best candidate for this position?
Well, the thing that makes me the best candidate is I'm also a political scientist. I went to school for political science back in 2007, got my degree from Florida Southern. And the thing that I learned about political science is that if we are to impact change, then we have to understand how to achieve that. And so I try my best to impact change on a daily basis. I try to change the world around me. I try to help as many people as I can help. And you don't have to necessarily be in office to do that. So if you followed us on Twitter or some of the other social media platforms, then you would know that I use my platforms to actually help people. So in a year and a half, we have actually worked to stop evictions for people. We have put hot water heaters in homes. We have fixed roofs. We have gotten drug treatment programs paid for. We've gotten tents for the homeless. Because what I do is I try and inspire uh, people to become not only change agents, but what I call social engineers, people who are all about making society better. And so people that believe in my message and believe in what I'm about, they want to be a part. So I tap into that vein and I get people to actually help around the country. So we've actually been able to do more than my opponent has in the 12 years that he's been in office. We have literally affected positive change throughout the state and throughout the country.
Okay, that's really good. That's really good. It is always good to kind of have a background in service. I genuinely believe that. And the simple fact that you said that you've tackled more than like the incumbent says a lot, right? Especially if they're put in that position to do the work and someone who has not can do more. That's just a little weird, but that's good to hear. That's good to hear. And also, you being a political science, major, that's really big because a lot of people um, don't have a degree in it, so it's kind of a little bit different. They're kind of going as they go, but you kind of already know the education behind it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's really good. That's good. Okay, so outside of that, what is your like mission statement for this position? Like your main thing?
Well, my campaign mission statement is working to improve the quality of life for everyone. And the reason we came up with that is because when you look around, most politicians are looking to benefit either self or they're looking to benefit the people in their social economic class, or they're looking to benefit the people that are in their party. And we have way too much of that in leadership. We need leaders who are going to work to benefit everyone, because
Right.
at the end of the day, we are all in this together. This situation that we have in this country, we're in it together. But the only way to get out of the situations that we're in, we have to be able to work together. That means it requires everyone pulling their own weight. And so we're going to lead the charge by trying to inspire an idea that we have to be about looking out for one another. And you'll hear me say this quite often. It doesn't matter how many flags you fly. It doesn't matter how many guns you hoard. What makes you a true patriot and a true American is looking out for one another. So we all have to do our part to look out for one another.
Okay, That's really good. That's really good. I agree with the grouping of politicians just because after a while, once you get in office, you believe that, like you said, you're going to try to benefit those who put you there or those who, you associate with, those who were in the same colors, same party as you. But overall, politics is to help everybody, right? And make sure that there's governing amongst everyone instead of just a certain amount of people. So, okay, okay. So with most of the time, what we've seen in Congress is that they focus in certain committees. Do you have any committees that you're going to tackle once you are elected?
Yeah, there are several committees that I would like to be a part of, but it's kind of a lottery system. I'm very interested in energy and very interested in making sure that we can tackle the climate situation. So I want to make sure that I'm in energy so that we can move our society from fossil fuels into more clean energy type programs. Because I really believe that if we do not tackle the climate issue through energy, we're going to really hurt our environment, and that's going to have a catastrophic impact on literally everything. In fact, if our global temperature rises just 2 more degrees, it could literally cause crops from around the world, various crops, to stop growing, and it could cause a food insecurity issue that could possibly lead to 200 million deaths globally. And it's something that most politicians are really not talking about, but it's something that's on my mind. I definitely want to try and be a part of the small business committee because I believe that small business ownership is the backbone of our economy, and our economy is the backbone to the global economy. So I want to do my part to continue stimulating entrepreneurship in our society. And like I said, there's so many other disabilities caucus. Disabilities is very important to me. So anyone that I could serve on, I would definitely do my best to affect change in those areas.
Awesome, awesome. I do know that based off of your most of the things that I've gotten from you has been from your is it Fridays for Florida on
Yes,
YouTube?
Friday for Florida.
Yeah, and you've tackled a lot of different things, like from, of course, all of the most, of course, whatever most politicians are talking about, but you tackle everything in a very specific manner, which I think is very beneficial for those who are looking to see, of course, who you are, what you stand for, and if your ideals match theirs. But then also let them know that you aren't just worried about the main five things, right? You have a large plethora of things you want to tackle. And then I liked how you said the energy. I think, like you said, most people kind of bypass that topic, but it does have a very grand impact if not focused on. So that's a really big
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, our Fridays for Florida discussions are designed for Floridians,
Mm-hmm.
but the issues that Florida face are issues that people face really across the country. But the purpose of the Fridays for Florida discussion is to give voters an opportunity to be heard and to hear me. Because what we don't have enough of is leaders communicating directly with the voters to see what's on their hearts and what's on their minds. And I spend the most time doing that because I believe that voters deserve a leader who understands the
Right.
complexities of the issues that they deal with. In Florida, we have 67 counties, and every county has a different themed issue. And so, in order to represent the entire state, you really have to have a thorough knowledge of all of the issues.
Yeah.
And for the sake of this conversation, there are 55,000 different laws that are on the book, and those laws are directly associated to 55,000 issues, which impact millions of Americans. And so when I talk about the plethora of issues, the other purpose of that is to give voters an opportunity to understand that we really have more in common than not. It's all about being able to communicate enough about enough issues so that we can determine that, it's not just about the Second Amendment, or it's not just about abortion. It's about healthcare. It's about disabilities. It's about veterans care. It's about all of the issues that we have in common, all of the issues that directly impact us or will eventually impact us indirectly or directly. But we have to talk about what's really going on. And sometimes those messages are not being talked about because we get bogged down on the divisive issues.
Yeah. Yeah. And overall, it's just good to have that discussion, right? Like you said, so you can end up seeing that there are all there's certain issues that aren't just bombarded by the main three things you see on media, right? There's a lot more issues that need to be discussed, and there's a lot more people who have the same issues in common that will make it easier for legislature, make it easier just to communicate better and just to see effective results and the movement. So yes, I love
Absolutely.
it. Okay, awesome. So, what will be your strategy to have all of your plans become a reality? I just put that question in there just because we love to hear, what's gonna happen or what they plan to do, but I know most people want to know the strategy, right? Because a lot of people
Mhm.
are business owners, so they have to have their own strategies and their own plans of actions. So, can you give us like a strategy that you want to, input once you're there?
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to thank you for asking that particular question because it's a question that a lot of candidates are not thinking about because not every candidate went to school for political science. Some candidates are business leaders. Some candidates come out of different fields. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, the last two incoming classes into Congress, 60% of them had no political experience, no legislative experience. So this question is very important. The purpose of being able to have a strategy in how you move policy forward going into Congress is so important because what a lot of people don't understand is that you can have um, plans and ideas about what you want to do. And you can even go out and make promises to people about what you're going to do. But the fact is that when you're in Congress, you're only one person, one vote. And you have in the House, you have 434 other members
Right.
of the House. And if you're in the Senate, you have 99 other members in the Senate. So you have to convince a majority of those individuals to see things your way in order for your proposals to even have a chance at becoming law.
Right.
And so my strategy for being able to move policy forward is simply understanding what keeps policy from moving forward. And oftentimes, the thing that keeps policy from moving forward is the partisan slants to policy. A lot of times, policies will have either a conservative slant or a liberal slant. And if it shows up with that slant, then you're not going to get the support from the conservatives if you're liberal. And if you come as a conservative and it has that conservative slant, you're not going to get the support from the liberals. So the trick is to put together policy that can benefit everyone without um, without conflicting with the philosophical ideology of both parties. And
Right.
so I've spent a lot of time putting together plans to do just that. So, for example, there are people in Congress that will not accept UBI because they don't want to raise taxes on certain individuals in certain social economic classes.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to raise taxes on the rich, well, are guess who uh, uh, guess what type of people are actually going to be the ones to vote? They're usually going to be rich people. Rich people are not going to pass policy that's going to affect their bottom line. So
Right.
we have to find creative ways in order to do this. Some people feel like in order to pay for new programs, you have to cut funding from existing programs. Well, that's not going to go over very well with Democrats because we want to keep all of the programs. So then the question becomes, how do you actually put together a piece of policy where you don't raise taxes and you don't cut existing programs? There is a third way, there's a fourth way, and a fifth way, and a sixth way. But it takes someone who understands the complexity, but it also takes someone who is creative enough and who cares enough to actually do the work. And I am creative, I care, and I understand how to do this. And so, just to give you an example, I say this often. If we were to legalize cannabis across the country, right? What it could do is we could tax the sale of cannabis. It would generate $135 billion. We could utilize those new revenues to actually pay for um, student debt. We could cancel student debt, and not only that, we could pay for every student who is currently in school and the same amount of people who will be in school the following semester and the semester after that. We could pay for them to have a 4-year education for free simply by decriminalizing cannabis, taxing the sale of it, and paying for higher education. I just said on TikTok that we can literally call this the higher learning bill. And so something like that, it's out of the box. No one's proposed it, but we wouldn't get any arguments from those on the right. We wouldn't definitely get any arguments from those on the left. And everyone wins. And so it's just thinking outside of the box like that. Another thing that we could do is to pay for something like universal health care. We literally could tax the sale of our privacy data. If you have a cell phone, and right now there's 350 million people in America, there's 300 and maybe 80 million active cell phones. So that means that everyone has a cell phone. Some people probably have two. But if you have a cell phone, you probably have your apps like Facebook, Instagram, all of the social media apps. These apps are constantly asking for permissions to your microphone, to your photos, to your communications. And what they're doing with that information is they are taking that private information and they are selling it to companies. And then we wonder why we're being targeted with all of these phone calls about products and services. It's because we are being targeted. Our privacy data is being sold. If we were to tax the sale of that privacy data, we could pay for things like universal basic income, universal health care. We could do a lot to create a fundamental change in programs sustainably in our society where people who have not can finally have, and it wouldn't cost people, individuals, anything. We wouldn't have to cut existing programs. And so that would be a situation where it's a win-win. We can create public-private partnerships at a level that this country has never seen to generate new revenue. We could do business with countries in the Caribbean that we are not doing business with, to take their commodities and trade them on our international trading platforms to generate new revenue to pay for things. We could balance our imbalanced trade policies to make up the difference. But we don't necessarily have to tax the people. Taxation is a burden.
Right.
And so the thing is that if we're going to generate new revenue, we don't necessarily have to tax people to do it. There are countries who simply engage in public-private partnerships to generate the revenue that they need to take care of the society that they have and that they live in. We could do the same thing, but we have to have leaders who care enough, who are willing to do the work, who are willing to think outside of the box and be creative enough to make this a reality. And I am definitely up for the challenge.
Okay, awesome. I love your answer, of course, for starters, just because it was very compacted with detail, right? And very intricate, just like I love the idea of the question, right? Because I said a lot of times we have ideas, we have thoughts, and we want to just say we're going to get it done, but no one asks the how and why, right? And that answer was very strategic, very specific, and I loved it. And things, like you said, thinking outside of the box, I never thought of, like you said, the information, taxing that. I never came to my mind. So I find that very different, and I think different is what's needed, right? So I like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. So what challenges are you expecting to have during the term once you're elected?
Well, the thing is right now, we're dealing with redistricting.
Mm.
In the state of Florida, um, we have literally been decimated for all of the black congressional districts in this state.
Mm-hmm.
DeSantis drew his maps, and it was unconstitutional. But because uh, the former president put certain judges in place, it really has hurt um, the opportunity for there to be fair maps drawn. In fact, Republicans are controlling 175 congressional district maps across the country. So it's going to be very tough trying to get a Democratic majority in the House.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also going to be very difficult to maintain a Democratic majority in the Senate. If you do not have a majority in the House and the Senate, it becomes very difficult to get meaningful policy passed. So the thing that I try to do is I try to inspire a level of awakeness in the people by raising awareness on the issues, raising awareness about how government works, because most people really don't understand how government works. And so I believe that an educated voter or educated voters will vote for the best leaders. If we can get the best leaders, then we would have a chance at having the best policies. So it's not just about my race, it's about every race. It's about the down ballot candidates, because if we look at the state house races, those legislators are responsible for the congressional maps.
Mm-hmm.
So if we only focus on like my race and the congressional races and not even think about the state legislative bodies who draw the maps across the country, then we are setting ourselves up for failure long term, or at least for the next 10 years, because we draw maps every 10 years at census time. And so
Mm-hmm.
we have to be thinking about every aspect of the political arena in order to make sure that we are meeting our short-term goals, but also our mid-term and our long-term goals. But on a lighter note, I'm very excited about the future of this country, because like my daughter, she's 11 years old, and the kids that are in her age demographic are very homogenous. They think alike. They don't represent the old way of thinking. And I believe that in the next 9 years, when they turn 18 and they start voting, I think that we're going to see the political landscape completely change to something that will actually reflect where America is going. And so I'm very excited about that. I'm doing my part to inspire them. I even have a Roblox account. I was the first politician in the world to be on Roblox. And we have a massive following in Roblox, and the kids are learning so much about American government. Even globally, kids outside of the country are very excited about what's going on in America. And so we're going to continue to stimulate that and lift them up and make them go to school, because when I'm online, they don't want to go to school. I said, no, Mr. Ellison don't like dumb kids, so you got to go to school.
I love it. I love it. I agree. My sister loves Roblox. Um, and it's just like you said, it's a good place to kind of get on their level, to speak with them and teach them. Because my sister comes back and tells me stuff, and I'm like, how do you know this? I'm like, okay, wait a minute. But it's really good. It's really good because you're, teaching the next generation, right? And then that's why I think I was so eager to speak with you, is because you're very informed on a lot of things, right? And I think just the way this interview is going, you answer most of my questions, flawlessly. You're answering all of them flawlessly, and I think that just speaks volumes for itself. So I was just like, I'm just super excited for it. Okay. And it was very specific. Like you said, the redistricting. A lot of people don't know about that. I will say myself, a few years ago, I didn't know about things like that. But now that I know, I can apply it, right? Now that I'm informed, I can go out and do my due diligence in voting. So, yeah, okay. I did know we spoke a little bit about a party affiliation a little bit earlier, but for this position, of course, do you think that your party affiliation impacts your voters at the end of the day?
Party affiliation always impacts voters. People tend to vote down party lines.
Mm-hmm.
But the success that I have had with reaching voters outside of the party is simply because of my engagement.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I learned as a political scientist is that a person really shouldn't be able to tell what party you're in if you are communicating in an objective way about policy. And so
Right.
I'm constantly asked about what party I'm in, uh, so that someone could determine if they're going to support me. But
Right.
by the time I get finished talking about policy, it doesn't even matter what party I'm in to the person that I'm talking to. So
Okay.
this is why I hold town halls, because, like I said earlier, I believe that if we have enough conversation about enough issues, enough policy issues, then we will soon see that we have more in common than not. And
Right.
so once we establish common ground, then we can use that as a basis to move forward from. We should never use what party we are affiliated with as a basis to move forward from. It should always be about policy and ideas. I said this yesterday on Twitter that if we were to remove money out of politics, it would force candidates to run solely on ideas. And a
Right.
lot of individuals who are currently in Congress would probably fall short on the idea side. See, what happens is whoever has the most money is usually the person that can put their name out there enough where name recognition becomes the validating mechanism. But it shouldn't be about who can put their name out the most based on the money. It should really be about what ideas resonates with people the most,
Right.
and how, like you said earlier, what is the vision for how to implement those ideas. If you listen very closely, most politicians cannot articulate that because they are not dependent upon that. They're dependent upon their money and their money getting their name out there, whether it be through yard signs, road signs,
Mm-hmm.
um, television commercials today, Facebook
Right.
ads, just keeping the name out there. And the people usually vote with the name that they know because it gives voters a sense of security in voting for who they perceive will be the winner. And that is simply not the best way to choose leaders, because that is pretty much the reason why we have the kind of leaders that we have in
Right.
office. People like Ted Cruz, who came into Congress or came into the Senate, never have been in the Senate before, but came in with a net worth of $500,000, and the job only pays $175,000, but somehow he's now worth $50 million. You
Right.
know, the thing is, it should never be about the money. It should always be about the service. It should always be about finding creative ways within the scope of how government works, but finding creative ways to put policy together to impact the people. And so, that's why I support For the People Act, because one of the provisions in For the People Act is trying to get money out of politics.
Right.
Um, when I was a political science major, I spent a lot of time over in the business department. And there was this business professor who used to own the 20th largest oil and gas pipeline company in America. And he was very wealthy, and I spent a lot of time with him. But whenever I was with him, I would see members of Congress or candidates calling him and begging for donations. And so one day I asked him, I said, how come you never decided to run for Congress yourself? Because you're clearly, well funded. You could self fund your campaign. And he said, do you see how many calls I'm getting from people begging me for money for their campaigns? He said, if I was in Congress, people would be begging me for favors, and I already don't like it. And so he said, I don't want to be in that position. What that did for me was it taught me that if you are getting your money from certain interest groups,
Right.
then when you get in Congress, those are going to be the same interest groups that are going to be calling for favors. So what you would do is you would spend most of your time uh, doing favors for favors.
Right.
And you won't have enough time to actually do the work of the people. So in our campaign, I don't take special interest monies. I don't take monies from the type of entities that I will have to regulate. I don't take money from insurance companies and companies that pollute our environment, because when I get into the United States Senate, I want to not only represent the people, but I want to hold these companies accountable. It becomes
Right.
very difficult to hold companies accountable when you're taking their money. And if you just look around at the Federal Elections Commission website, you can see pretty much every one of those candidates that are talking about change and not affecting change simply because they're getting money from the entities that they're supposed to be bringing the change through and with.
Right.
And so it just becomes a situation where I fundamentally believe that we have to educate the voters so that every voter knows as much as I do. Because if
Right.
voters knew as much as I do about how government work and how the flow of money works with politicians, there is no way that any voter could really vote for any of them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad that in the state of Florida, the ballot fee is $10,400 just to get your name on the ballot. This doesn't exist in other states, but just to get your name on the ballot, it is already $10,000. What that does is it begins to be a voter suppression tactic because it excludes certain uh, people from certain social economic backgrounds. It also hurts people that are black and brown from even getting on the ballot. I know someone right now who is a great leader in the community who is trying his best to raise the $10,000 to be on that ballot. If the $10,000 fee was not even an issue, he would be on the ballot simply based on what the Constitution determines as a criteria, and that's simply to be an American citizen, to be of legal age, and to
Right.
live in the state that you're running in. That's all the Constitution requires. So for the state to turn around and create a $10,000 ballot fee, that is voter suppression, because
Right.
if this gentleman is not able to pay the ballot fee, then all of the people that he would represent would not even be able to vote for him.
Right.
Voter suppression. And so there is at least 100 different tactics that those in power who control the Republican Party are using to suppress votes. And when I tell people that voter suppression is real, if they don't believe it, then that just simply means that we need to do a better job of educating on all of the different ways that they are pulling these schemes off. And it's sad. And so education of voters is very important. We have to do more of it as a party. We have to do more of it as leaders. Um, I don't know of anyone that holds as many town halls as I do, or public discussions. I do this every Friday on Fridays for Florida, but I
Right.
also do it on Twitter. I hold town halls and I ask people questions. I let them ask me whatever questions they want to ask, because engagement is how we have been able to raise such a massive awareness without spending a single dime. We reach
Right.
10 million people every month without spending a single dime on ads.
That's good.
And I think that if we had maybe a limit, say every candidate could spend up to $5,000 on their campaign, maybe build a website and get a few yard signs, it would be simply based on ideas. And
Yeah.
I think we would end up with better leaders in Congress if we get the money out of politics.
Okay. Okay. That was, again, very informative, very detailed. I definitely hope that the viewers were taking notes, because I was trying not to like look down too much. But you spoke on some really good things. Like, of course, you mentioned originally about reaching party lines in a sense and having an objective conversation, right? Like, you don't want to focus on, red and blue. You don't want to focus on even yellow. You just want to focus on the ideas, right? The message, and teaching and nurturing the minds of the voters, right? So that was a good point. And also just, informing people on how Florida and it specifically works, especially in politics, because I didn't know about the $10,000 fee. I'm pretty sure most people didn't know, but now that they do know, it kind of again makes them have an objective conversation with themselves, and of course at the polls, you know. So you spoke some really good things. I love it. So that's
Thank
good.
you.
That's good. Okay. So you did speak on a lot of things inside of politics, right? But what is another common misconception that you want to debunk in the political scene once you are in office?
There's a whole lot of them.
I
Like
know.
one of the things, one of the things I want um, the people to understand, and I always go back to the people because it's the people that elect these leaders. So if we educate the people, then we get better leaders. But one of the things that I want to always make people understand is I am constantly asked and say, Alan, what are some of your issues?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I have a lot of issues. But the reality is that it's not about my issues.
Right.
As a future senator, as a representative, the idea is that someone is going to represent your interests,
Right.
not their own. And if we take that into consideration, then the question should be, and the question should come from the candidate, not the voter. The candidate should be asking the voter, what are the issues that keep you up at night?
Right.
And the more you learn about what keeps people up at night, then the more the candidate can go and work on policy that can fix and solve the issues that the voters are dealing with. But see, we have this misconception that we have to ask the candidate about what issues they want to push. And it shouldn't be about the candidate's agenda.
Right.
I remember after the Parkland shooting, CNN had a town hall, and Cameron, the student, asked Senator Marco Rubio if he would stop taking money from the NRA. And he said, if we could raise as much money for your campaign as the NRA, would you stop taking money from the NRA? And Senator Marco Rubio, rather than answer the question in the right way to say that you are my constituents, I will do what's necessary to look out for your interests, he answers the question by saying, I will take money from anyone who aligns with my agenda.
Mm.
And that rubbed me wrong when he said that, because it should not be about the senator's agenda. The agenda should be about the people. So if we understand that the people have particular issues that keep them up at night, then it should be our responsibility to work on policy to make sure that they can sleep a little bit better.
Okay, that's good. That's one thing I do like about this interview, or just interviews in general, is that most of the time people and candidates want to make sure that the voters know that they work for them, right? It's like, I'm doing this for you. It's not me, right? It's not just my special interest. It's the majority special interest. So that's a really good thing. And then just that story is very unnerving, but you know, that's just how things go. But that was
I
good.
have
I
I
like
have
that.
one more for you too.
Mm-hmm.
Another misconception about running for Congress. I am 41. I'll be 42 this year,
Mm-hmm.
but I look kind of young. You know, people think that I'm 18. I grow the goatee to look a little older, but people think that I'm much younger, and they automatically assume that I don't have any experience or enough experience to be running for the United States Senate. So
Right.
this is a huge misconception, because this conversation or this debate came up 234 years ago, and there were members of Congress who were writing the Constitution, and they determined that experience was not the thing that was needed to run for the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
They determined that it was character and heart were the most important things to be able to run for Senate, which is why when they put together the criteria for running for Senate, it was simply only to be of a legal age, to be an American citizen, and to live in the state that you're running in. Just those three. It wasn't experience. And so, to further make my point, today there are currently 12 United States senators that do not have legislative or political experience. Mm-hmm. Two of them we got in 2020. That was Senator Warnock and Senator Ossoff. And they're doing a great job. We love the work they're doing. And as I said before, in the last two incoming classes, the last two freshman classes into Congress, only 40% of the incoming members had legislative or political experience. So that means the majority of them came in from a variety of different fields of interest. America is the most diverse place on earth in terms of population diversity, social economic diversity. It is very diverse. In order to represent a diverse population, you have to have a diverse electorate. You have to have people who come from all walks of life. And so for me, I have a very diverse background. I'm a cosmetologist, but I'm also a political scientist. So that makes me a cosmopolitician. Being in this space, being in the two lanes that I exist in, it gives me a great deal of perspective. Right. Being inside of the shop, I talk to people from all walks of life, people that are Democrats, Independents, Republicans. I get a chance to hear their perspectives. And in hearing their perspectives, I then get a chance to utilize my political science background to formulate policies that can pull all three together. And so, my gift in life is just helping people. And I couldn't think of a better career path than to go into Congress so that I can utilize the weight of the United States government to maximize my gift of helping people. And I'm very excited about what I'm doing. Yeah. I'm very passionate about what I'm doing, and I love educating and communicating with voters.
Okay, awesome. No, I love it. I love it. Like I said, I know, just me personally, I know that the original foundation of politics is just servitude, right? And then the common man making things work for other common people, right? And like you said, there's only three main things that you need to be a part of this movement. And even with that, you can add your fourth thing where it's like you're, like you said, a cosmetologist. You can have a background in political science. Most are businessmen or most are farmers, stuff like that. And that just lets it know that once you come all together, you can have those discussions, you can talk about it and make things work for everybody. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right? Making it work for everybody. Okay, awesome. This is my personally my favorite part of every interview, just because it puts a pretty little bow on all of them. But are you basing your campaign on anything in terms of political figure or like anything that inspires you? Like, what's your inspiration of this whole thing?
Not really. I'm Alan. I try to be authentically me, but I do find myself thinking about leaders who I see as great leaders. Mm-hmm. For example, in the state of Florida, the last federal politician to win Florida was President Obama. Right. And he didn't win Florida with just Democratic votes. At a time when Democrats outnumbered Republicans. In fact, this time last year, Democrats outnumbered Republicans by 97,000 voters. The last time I looked, which was a couple of weeks ago, Republicans outnumbered Democrats by 111,000 voters. It was difficult for Democrats to win when we had a majority. It's going to be even more difficult for Democrats to win now that we are in the minority. Right. And so I looked at how he was able to inspire people who came from different walks of life, different parties, and inspired them uh, to want to be a part of positive change. How he inspired them to take a look at how policy directly impacted their world, not based on what Fox News was saying, not based on what the party was saying, but really to take a deep look at how policy directly impacts you.
Right.
Because when you can see how policy impacts you, it does something, it changes something in you. It makes you want to know more about other policies and how other policies directly impact you. And so I look at what he was able to do. I try to emulate his ability to reach people in such a way that politics go out of the door and it becomes about human connection. I look at Dr. King and how he was able to do the same thing at a time when the country was so racially and socially divided. Because I fundamentally believe that if we keep talking about walls and building walls, throughout history, walls have always served as a mechanism to divide people throughout the world, throughout history. But we have to really think about bridges and how we can bring people together. If we're going to improve the quality of life for everyone, we have to have a message of unity. We have to have a message of policy, not just the divisive policy, but all policy. We have to talk about it all, because only there will we discover that we have more in common, and we can utilize those threads to build a fabric that is so powerful, so revolutionary in this country, that we would have the opportunity to change the course of our history forever. And that's what I want to do. That's what I'm about. But I'm one person, and it starts with conversation. If we talk enough, then we will soon see that we can build together. But we have to put aside our political differences. We have to look at one another as first humans, and then brother and sister, and then how can we help our brothers and sisters?
Okay, awesome. Like I said earlier, this is my favorite question just because it puts a pretty ending on the interview, and it also just lets the viewers know who you are at the end of the day, right? If they made it this long, and when they make it this long, they'll know that you are going to back it up, you're going to work hard, and you're going to get it done, right? So yes, that is it for me. Thank you so much, Alan, for speaking with me. This interview has been very informative. I know I've been throwing that word around a lot, but it was very informational, and I'm pretty sure the viewers and the voters will show out for you at the end of the day. You guys, everything that he has said, well, of course, I hope it resonated with you. And if so, I will have all of his social platforms and as well as his website in the description below for you. And of course, your TikTok, because I remember you your TikTok. I'm going to put it on there. But yeah, thank you so much again. And I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Oh, you're so welcome. You have a great rest of your day, okay?
You as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. I hope you guys enjoyed the interview just as much as I did. And if so, don't forget to like, comment, and share this video with your friends. If you or someone you know would like to be a part of our Political Lens series, check out the description below for my email. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for weekly content. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and see you next time.